Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Leo. Where on earth are you this morning? Look at this fancy background.
I know, right? So look, I'm still really excited about my Brighton move. I'm not like having doubts about it or anything, but it turns out when you move to the coast that sometimes your Wi-Fi is not as good as it was when you used to live in the middle of London. So what I've had to do, very kindly, a friend of mine, Steve Taggart, who people will know of as the CEO of My Getaways, which is Brighton's biggest short-term rental company. He's my buddy, and I called him and I said, look, dude, my Wi-Fi's out. And he's very kindly let me come and sit in his office to record with you today.
Good friends. Good friends.
Yeah, it's good to have people, powerful people in the coastal city that you've moved to. So there you go. But yeah, look, I'm still pro Brighton. It's just having a few Wi-Fi teething issues, and but I'm still pro. Look, Sarah, nothing's going to kill my buzz today anyway, because this is our last show of the year, and we're stopping for Christmas, which means we've got so much exciting stuff to talk about. Can you believe it? We made it to the end of the year.
I can't believe it. It's wild.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's cool. I mean, I should have really, off the top of my head, I can't quite remember when we started, but it feels like we've done a good 7-8 months of this thing, right?
We have. I want to say it was in April or May. It was the first recording. Maybe April.
There you go. Promise me now, when we do our 1-year anniversary, we can do it in person.
Yeah, let's do it. But you're coming to Barcelona, because if it's in April, it'll be too cold for me in Brighton, I think.
I 100% agree. I have two children that mean we can't have any fun. So let's definitely make that Barcelona trip. Sorry, Jasmine, if you're listening. Okay, so here we are. Season's greetings, Sarah. Remind the audience what it is you're doing over the Christmas period.
Yeah, so I am going to Scotland with my partner. I'm really excited. So we're going to Edinburgh, Glasgow, and then do like a day trip to Stirling. So it should be great. Yeah,
good for you. Good for you.
Being cold.
Hotel or short-term rental?
Hotel. Short-term rental, especially I think in Edinburgh, they've had a lot of issues with short-term rentals, and so the supply was really, really low, and the prices were insane. So yeah, we are hoteling it this time.
Who knew? It's a chance for Sarah to get political. Then I like it. She's got political straight away. Well done, you. There we go. Okay, great. Well, look, we're staying in Brighton, as you know. Sadie's getting very excited. Last night, we dressed our Christmas tree. I'll share a video with you, Sarah, of Sadie singing Christmas songs that she's been learning at nursery while we were decorating the tree.
Oh, what cute.
It was the cutest thing in the world. And then I was allowed to put the star on the top of the tree. And I said, you sure you don't want to do it, sweetie? And she was like, no, Daddy, because you're the tallest. So for the first time in my life, I had that daddy-daughter moment where she was like, put the star on, and she got really excited. So that was very cool. I know, so right? It's a real great moment. And I love Christmas. I do. Primarily because, for me, it's the first example of the short-term rental industry being useful when the hotel is full, right? Look, guys, we've come with our little baby who's about to be born, called Jesus, who's going to change the world, apparently. And there's no room at the inn. I'm sorry, there's no room at the inn, but you can go around the corner to the barn that we've got, and you can have the baby there. I mean, short-term rentals, right?
Leo, you did not just make a parallel with Jesus and short-term rentals. That was really impressive. Yeah.
Don't worry.
I wouldn't have thought of that. Well done, Leo.
Edit it out, right? They'll probably edit it out and go, that was too much. That was too much, Leo. But yeah, no, look, go to the barn conversion around the corner that's been put on all the short-term rental platforms. I want to know, and I should have checked this in advance, how many baby Jesus themed barn conversions are available to rent over Christmas. There's got to be a few, right? There's got to be a few.
America's always good for that kind of stuff. There's got to be at least one in the States, at least one.
Yeah. And look, and then the flexibility to extend your stay because you're waiting for the 3 wise men to turn up. I mean, come on, this is a short-term rental story. We should change the narrative of Christmas, shouldn't we?
It sounds like an illegal occupation. It took the wise men 2 years to turn up. Can you imagine somebody turning up and being like, oh no, they're coming for the birth. No, the birth has happened. let's move on, guys. You got to go.
You're right. It's squatting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. Okay. Right. Okay. Always make sure you get a rental agreement signed. That means you can ask them to leave. Okay. Good. Parallels and learnings all over there. Sarah, favorite Christmas song, my friend?
Oh, my favorite Christmas song. I think it's got to be Jingle Bell Rock. Although when I was growing up, my mom had a rule, which is when we decorate the Christmas tree, we only listen to Mannheim Steamroller, to this like 1980s cassette tape that she now makes my dad go and every year, because our cassette player, shockingly, never works. So my dad always has to go buy a new one every single year. I don't even know where he finds them anymore. I think on like eBay or something. And so that is the only thing we're allowed to listen to when decorating the Christmas tree. And so now in my home, I have this weird, I like it, but I don't know. This year we did Techno Christmas, which was also good while decorating the tree. So
new traditions within old
traditions. Yeah, it's nice.
Well, Christmas is a chance to lean into nostalgia and tradition, isn't it? In a way that we don't allow ourselves to in the other 11 months of the year. The older I get, the more I'm like, listening to the radio, great, Christmas has now begun. We're going to have a month of Christmas tunes. I love it. I used to be like, no, wait, don't spoil it. Now I realize that for me, Christmas is a 1 month thing. And it's the 1 month where I allow myself to be nostalgic. As a consequence, and I may have mentioned on the pod, I'm not sure if I have, but one part of my family is Irish. And so I'm going to lean into the nostalgia of Christmas, and I'm going to go with the Fairy Tale in New York, which I think is the best Christmas song, really. There's so many good ones, but that's the showstopper at the end of the night, isn't it?
Fabulous. Yeah. I love Christmas. I am one of the freaks that puts my tree up. The Spaniards all yell at me because in the States, it's totally fine to put it up. You put it up the day after Thanksgiving. But this year, because I was away for Thanksgiving, I put it up before Thanksgiving. And so I have had my tree up for weeks, and it will be up. I'm taking the American approach and the Spanish approach, because the Spaniards leave it up until the 7th of January because they have Three Kings Day on the 6th. So I get like 2 months of Christmas.
Good.
I love it.
Good for you. Lean in, my friend. Anyone listening to us, anyone who's still listening after we've just talked about Christmas for 5-6 minutes, anyone listening, give us your views on that. Property managers, actionable insights. Come on. Christmas trees in every photo, please. We love it. All right. So it is very, very close to Christmas, but the news is still pouring in thick and fast. Sarah, what's caught your eye this week, my friend?
I think for me, super close to home is a potential repeal of the ban on short-term rentals in Catalonia. So the European Holiday Home Association has filed a complaint with the European Commission. That complaint was filed a while ago. And the Commission has decreed that the restrictions laid down in this ban are not suitable to attain the objective of fighting housing shortages, and are disproportionate to that objective. I think the thing that I really loved, and the big zinger here, is that they cite in their rebuttal that there are in fact 3 times as many empty properties that have no one in them as there are short-term rentals in the city, and that is what the city should be focusing their efforts on in trying to get those properties on the rental market. That's a really interesting one to me, and where my mind first goes is, of course, those properties are empty because in Spain, and I think in Portugal as well, there is, I wouldn't call it like a huge problem, but there definitely is an issue with squatters, and it is impossible to kick them out. So if you have somebody who is doing some shady stuff, let's say that, I don't know, you might be a drug dealer. Well, you're not going to pay for rent, are you? Why would you do that? So you squat illegally in a property, and the government will not kick you out. It takes up to 2 years to kick someone out. And if you, as the owner, cut off the electricity or the water or anything like that, then you pay a fine and you could potentially go to jail. So it's like, it's a very, I think it was a law that was made with good intentions to protect vulnerable people and especially families. But unfortunately, it has been definitely misused. So I think that is part of the problem as well of why people don't put things on long-term rental, especially in Spain, because they have fewer rights, ironically, than they would if it were for a midterm or short-term rental. And so even without short-term rentals here, you see an influx of midterm properties. And it's not even because people want to rent it midterm. They would prefer to have it rented for 5 years, but they want the protections and they've had a negative experience. So for me, that was great news that finally we're getting some support from the European Commission. And it was also good to see that an association was able to come together and properly present something. I know we talk about this all the time, that we need to organize better in Europe. And it's something that in the States, I think they've done a really good job of. And I think this is a great example of how that actually can have an impact. I think often we think, oh, well, I'm just one operator. I only have X number of properties. Who am I to take on, the whole city of Barcelona or the European Commission? But if we all come together, we can actually get things done. So that was my little hope and Christmas present, I would say. I'm not even operating a short-term rental in Barcelona, but I'm happy for all the people who are.
You might be soon, though. You might be soon if this changes. No, I think it's
If
cool.
it changes, yeah, it might be.
It's a glimmer of hope, isn't it? And if you think that what's going to come round next year, again, will be the trend of people protesting against over-tourism and perceived problems in pinch points in different towns in different parts of the year. We just need a smarter solution for that, right? And that is not just draconian bans on certain elements of the tourist trade, but actually having a look at your whole tourist mix, trying to encourage, if your cruise ships are your issue, you can try and encourage them to smaller towns. Same thing, try and build out street by street what it is you want to achieve in your city. So, I don't think any of us are saying that we think over tourism is a good thing. Far from it. It's a bad thing. But then the whole solution to that, and a lot of it that needs to come from private enterprise, some of it needs to come from government, is to encourage the spread of tourists throughout your region and throughout your cities, not just to put bans on stuff. And again, that's why we go back to the Portuguese example. What neighborhoods can you encourage this in to get people away and showcase different parts of your city? London, this happens very organically, that you get London's, because it's such a monster of a place, the young people and the artists go to the cheapest area. And then the next thing that happens is the short-term rentals, people start renting out spare rooms and then that comes in behind it. And people, suddenly it's cool to go to the new hip part of London or New York, and you've got to let that happen because it causes economic development and allows for it. So yeah, I'm hopeful that this is the beginning of a change of narrative, but you're dead right. Starts with us being organized as collectively to make sure that we're at the table, not on the menu.
It does. It was really interesting when I was doing some research for this article. I also came across it was a blog post on Rentals United, just basically talking about how talking about the ban when it first came out. And it was really interesting that they were citing some cool statistical information, which was talking about the entire makeup of the city of Barcelona changing, which is what we talk about all the time. So in the last 10 years, because of the free movement of peoples through the European Union, people whose primary residence is now here that are not originally from here has skyrocketed. There's tons of businesses that have opened up, tons of startups. Barcelona is an attractive place to start a new business, to hire people internationally. It has become really a hub of entrepreneurship, and that attracts talent mostly from different places as well as obviously locals. And so it was mentioning that, overall, it has nothing to it was really, really cool for me to see the European Commission basically say, guys, this isn't the reason that you have a housing crisis. You have a housing crisis and you're looking for a scapegoat and you're barking up the wrong tree here. There's so many other places that you should look, including the overall makeup of the city, and other initiatives that you could take rather than demonizing or banning short-term rentals, because there's no correlation here. So,
well, look, a bit of good news to finish the year there, isn't it, Sarah? You brought a bit of Christmas cheer to the pod, as I knew you would.
I hope so. I just feel good that the European Commission said I was right. Let's just leave it there.
Finally, Europe's listening to Sarah. Maybe they're listening to the podcast, in fact. Maybe someone's listening to the pod. Thanks, Sarah. So another article that caught our eye this week, both of our eyes, is Vacasa founder Eric Breon, who resigned as CEO in 2020, is re-entering the travel industry with a new startup called Fairly. Quite on the nose, that, isn't it? Fairly. Lots that could be read from that. And we were WhatsApping back and forth on this, and I think it's got the industry talking. I think the way he's announced his return is quite clever as well, because he's got the industry talking. So he's creating a new vacation rental management company, come out of stealth mode with $10 million of pre-seed funding from internal investors. And he said, my re-entry to the space was driven by my frustration as a vacation rental guest and owner. Scale and the vacation rental industry has brought huge benefits in terms of yield management, home automation, and overall revenue performance. But large companies struggle to deliver exceptional guest and owner experiences. Now, it's interesting because if you read his press release, or if you read the articles around it, the phrase hyperlocal comes up. So I just wanted to say that's our word of the year, right? Or, our sort of 2 words of the year, Sarah. We're forever saying hyperlocal. So this is really cool. This is cool that it's come around. And obviously, Vacasa is often used as the example of a company that, centralized a lot around its property management companies that it bought, and essentially became in some respects a real talking point for the industry. What was happening at Vacasa became a bellwether for large property managers, not small ones or individual hosts, but definitely large ones. And I guess it's showing that he's acknowledging some areas that what Vacasa did was fantastic, and some areas where it was not so fantastic. And with this, is trying to put together a more locally focused way of running it, so that it matches you with a caretaker, a cleaner, basically, to run it from the cleaning standpoint, and then an advisor, typically a realtor in a local area that can run in terms of, I know a person who can fix the leak on the sink. I can introduce you to a builder. I can help you. I can help you network within your local area to grow local guest profiles, etc. It's interesting. It's obviously very early days. It's in stealth mode, but yeah, I think it's quite cool because it's always fun when people who've created such successful businesses, forget about your view on Vacasa, but people who've created such successful businesses come back in with a slightly tweaked idea, and it certainly gets people's attention, doesn't it? And then obviously you could take a more cynical approach, which is like, well, you're fixing a problem you maybe helped to create. But as an optimist, I'm not going to take that approach. I'm just going to say I think it's exciting, and let's see what. I always like bright people in our space doing innovative things.
Yep.
Like, I'll get off the soapbox slightly, but we need more innovation. We need new, fresh ways at looking at problems and challenges, so that we don't just accept the same old, because we have a myriad of challenges in our industry. Sarah, what did you think?
Yeah, I think to me it was a really interesting approach. And in fact, it's an approach that a lot of the coaches, so people who basically coach people on how to start your own like Airbnb business, it's what they all say. Like, you don't need a management company. You can do it all yourself. What you need is a really good cleaner, and what you need is a really good handyman. And so if you have one local good contact, you can run a successful short-term rental business from anywhere. And you don't need a management company. That's been a kind of age-old teaching. I think where that falls flat is if it is in an area where you don't know anyone, then that connection is extremely valuable. I'm curious to see how the pricing is going to work, because there's a mention obviously of it being, traditional vacation rental management is much more expensive, things like this. I have a friend who has a couple of short-term rentals in Tenerife in the Canary Islands, and operates them that way. So he takes a much more active role, right? He does all of the guest communication, and he handles bookings and things like that, and all of the publication on the platforms. But he does basically use this sort of system, right? So he has a housekeeper that goes by after every single checkout, does a revision of the properties, like double checks. Oh, are there any screws loose? Is there anything wrong? If there is, contacts the handyman that he already has a contact with. And so I know that it can work, but it's a lot different when it's your people on the ground that you trust, that you've known for your whole life, right? Because his family's always had a second home there. And so it's a community of people that he's built up over years of local experience. So if a corporation, and here's where my cynicism come in, if a corporation is able to replicate that in a way that is actually organic and where you can trust the housekeepers and it works, I've seen it work. I don't know that it takes away all of the headache of management. And so I don't necessarily see it as a massive threat to the industry as a whole and to traditional property management, because for me, like, I hear him on the phone all the time with guests, and he loves it. He's a people person. And so they'll call him and he's like, oh my gosh, yes. What kind of food do you guys want tonight? Would love to recommend you something. Let me call and make you a reservation. I would hate that. I don't want people calling me, asking for reservations, but he enjoys that.
She also means me. She hates it when I call her. She doesn't answer. I
Yeah.
know she's there, but she just doesn't pick up the phone. Doesn't want to speak to me.
So I think you have to understand that as well, that if you're going with a service like this, sure, like the logistics of the property day to day, like the cleaning and the servicing and that kind of stuff, sure. But like, what is the reservation stuff like, and the guest communication? You're still going to have to do that. Like, so for me, that's like the bit that I couldn't do myself or couldn't probably organize myself. So that's where my healthy dose of skepticism comes in. But I think it'll really depend on the prices, and I think it'll depend on how capable they are of finding the right people in the right locations, and making it scalable.
Yeah, I think I agree. It's the right type of person who wants to do those things. So I think that is all important here. And another thought I had about it was that it feels a little bit like Airbnb's co-hosting program to me. A little bit. It's got shades of that. So. So the ideas around how you scale property management are like red hot at the moment. When you think that, oh, I host around the corner from you, and Airbnb's introduced us. I could help you. I've actually got a great cleaner already. Great, I've got a great handyman already. But you just want to be a host because, of course, you want to keep hold of all these other parts of the process. So yeah, it sort of brought back memories of that, and with technology being as it is and getting better and better, AI helping to lessen the burden of customer service interactions, all that sort of stuff, I do think we are in a golden age of being an individual host versus 5 years ago, right? Where you needed the scale to be able for it to work economically. Like that's what a lot of these great software companies have brought by providing off the shelf technology for people with ones and twos. And then clearly I see this Airbnb's co-hosting program and this as a further play into that. So yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think, again, trend for 2000, we're not making predictions about 2025 yet. We might do that in January. Let's see how we feel then. See how hungover we are from Christmas and whether we're up for that. But I suppose if we were going to make a cheeky one, I think it would be that it continues to be a fragmented market with smaller operators finding tech solutions to allow them to not necessarily give over properties in the more traditional way. The original Vacasa model, which is local short-term rental management businesses that then get bought and turned into a national brand. Interesting. Let's go on because there's an interesting bit of news here, which we know that sort of outdoor-centric holidays, rural secluded cabins have been having a moment really for the last 12 months, especially with regulation biting and the urban area being definitely much more in the focus when it comes to over tourism and cost of living, all that sort of stuff. So we see here that Marriott have acquired Postcard Cabins and at the same time signed a long-term agreement with Trailborn, following Hilton and Hyatt, by expanding the outdoor accommodation and rural accommodation market into the rural accommodation market. So Marriott have acquired Postcard Cabins, formerly known as Getaway Outposts, adding 29 property with more than 1,200 cabins across the US. Sarah, you'll love this, right? You love a good outdoor holiday, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, and they announced simultaneously that a long-term agreement with the outdoor-focused accommodation provider Trailborn to bring its collections of hotels under the Marriott flag. So really kind of like pushing in all of that direction around rural, come and stay in this cool cabin in the woods. There's a pool, there's a lake, there's abseiling, all that good stuff. I've said on the pod before how much I love those type of holidays too. This feels like them making a statement the way they did with Homes and Villas a few years back. So this feels like a good play for them for 2025. If I was a property manager in the city with thinking about where I expand next, I would be trying to get out 2 hours drive from the city and plan to flag there as well. I think that's a really logical thing. If you understand how to manage property, like, can you take over some cabins, right? Can you build some cabins? Can you give them the urban tech-enabled short-term rental experience, but in the rural location that your city dweller who's coming out for the weekend wants? So like the person coming to stay with you in this cabin, they want high-speed Wi-Fi. They probably want the heating to be on when they arrive because you've got a smart thermostat. They definitely want you to have a wine fridge, and maybe they want a massive TV so they can still watch Netflix in the evening instead of being sat around cold. So pimping up these, who better to try and pimp up these kind of cabins than short-term rental operators? So I think it's interesting because I again, not making too many predictions about next year, but if I was near a rural area or a drive to a rural area and I was managing properties really effectively in an urban area, I would think that would be my next expansion. Sarah, what do you think? I know you love a rural holiday.
I love a rural holiday, and especially I love a rural holiday that does not involve a tent. So I hate camping, but I really like rural holidays. I think this is a really smart move, not only to gain additional inventory, but also to kind of get ahead of the curve. I know we've been talking about this trend, but it's a place where they're not going to have issues with regulation. They're pushing people to different types of destinations. I also think the cool one about this, and we can talk about some of the highlights, but there's Expedia's basically annual report and talking about trends for 2025. And one of the trends was this idea of like a pass-through type of destination. So where especially Gen Z is really interested in combining a major city that they've always wanted to visit, let's say a Paris, with something off the beaten path. So rather than just going to Paris and staying the whole 4 or 5 days in Paris, they might stay 2 nights in Paris and 3 nights in a smaller town in the outskirts because they want to experience the local vibe. And the only way to do that is by getting out of the big cities. And so I think this is a really smart move. I think especially if they're able to potentially even combine that inventory and get in on that trend where they can look at, okay, hey, we're gonna offer a combined holiday where if you book in a rural location as well as in a major city for the same stay, you get a 10% discount or whatever it is, to try and foment that and capitalize on that trend as well. But I think it's a great idea. I think they're making a really smart move here.
I think you're making a really smart point, as you always do there. That's a really interesting perspective, because Marriott have the scale and the scope to be able to do that, right? Like we can plan your itinerary for you. Here's the discount that comes with it, right? It's like the cruise ship trying to buy the beach that everyone docks at, which we've been reading about as well, right? Like, can I send people to the island that I own, or the coastal part that I own, so that when they get off land, I'll get off the boat, I'm also making revenue from them as well, right? So it's very, very smart, right? Like we have a trip for every mood, but we also can link those two trips together and wrap it all together with loyalty, which still the traditional vacation rental companies haven't mastered loyalty, right? That still sits firmly with the hotel players, I think, who Booking.com to an extent, Expedia to an extent, but certainly like the hotel brands have got a real number on loyalty, and your Bonvoy members that might be their opportunity to go and stay in the rural, because they can, hypothetically, they could end up in the hotel when they first arrive, then the short-term rental by the coast, and then the cabin in the woods to finish it off.
Why not?
Let's do it next summer. Come on, you and me, buddy. Bring the families. Let's do it. Let's do a Marriott hop. If anyone from Marriott's listening and wants to pay for that, great, all the better. I'm joking, of course. Sarah, anything else for us, my friend? We're on time.
We're on time. I think the only other thing that I wanted to point out is that New York City is potentially looking at adapting its regulation as it relates to short-term rentals. We go on about this all the time, about the fact that, one, short-term rentals oftentimes are demonized and used as the scapegoat for the lack of affordable housing, when really it's much more complex than that. The population of New York City, different types of neighborhoods in New York City, is grown. Just like most major cities, there is a flood to urban areas that has been happening in the last 20 years, much more so than in previous years. And so there's a lot of factors not taken into account. And we also always bang on about, hey, if short-term rentals were to disappear, there's so many good economic benefits that happen from that. And it seems like the New York City ban is finally starting to realize that. I think they're starting to realize that the economic impact of short-term rentals was massive. And it's now having a negative impact on the economy by them being quite so strict on short-term rentals. And so that ban is being reconsidered, which is really interesting. Hopefully Barcelona will listen.
Well, I think it's good to reference it because it's, it links hugely to Europe because Portugal's taken a similar approach. We always praise the Portuguese model. We're going to have tests to that next year with referendums and things around viability. But yeah, like I think to say that the world is not looking at New York and cities in Europe are not looking at New York is complete fallacy. Like everyone's looking at the New York example because they went further than anyone else, further, deeper, faster, and now slightly pulling back. So I agree, it's got global ramifications, and there's examples of good practice and bad practice within the European Union. And I hope so. If you believe in the power of the European Union, which I think we both do, it's to kind of is to see the good examples and the bad examples, and hopefully like then start to legislate and put things in a favor of good practice. And say Europe has examples of that at the moment to work from. Well, that to me seems like a great place to wrap up the year. Sarah, I've loved spending 2024 with you. Here's to more of the same next time.
Me too. Sounds great, Leo. I can't wait. Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas. And to all of you lovely listeners, happy Christmas to you all. If you've enjoyed today's show, please hit like, share, subscribe, and all the usual social places. Send us a Christmas card, send us a postcard, tell us what you get up to. If you're a property manager, just head down, crack on, enjoy the madness, right? I've done it. I remember it when I was at One Fine Stay. It's a mad time. So good luck, and we'll see you bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in January. Thank you.